Welcome to our August 9th community call. We haven't had a community call in a month. It's been high season for retreat centers. I think it's still high season for retreat centers. I haven't gotten a lot of responses to a lot of things, so I'm hoping folks are doing okay, pulling through the busy summer season. Our call today is on innovations, and we wanted to keep that pretty broad. So encouraging folks to share what they're innovating on whatever level that might be at their center. And then I've also invited several guests who are sort of at the perimeter of retreat centers in a few different ways to speak about what they're working on, how it connects to retreat centers, and kind of get an understanding of where we have room to grow, where there are new ideas that we could all benefit from, and encouraging kind of a loose and open conversation throughout. I think some of these insights might kind of bleed into each other. So if there's something we're learning along the way or a trend we're noticing, just so that we can all kind of pick up on that and share with each other, that's kind of what I'm encouraging in today's call. Another piece of this call, I think, is just for me to speak to the unique position that I'm in, where I'm having conversations with retreat center leaders, but I'm also having conversations with folks who are imagining what a retreat center could be like, folks who have a background in retreat, but maybe are using that background in a very different way now, or folks who are running an organization that is starting to bump into its need for connecting or partnership with retreat centers. And I don't know how much that's true for folks in our larger RCC community. So it's this call, maybe more than most calls, is an opportunity for me to say, hey, these are folks that I've met, that I've been having conversations with, that I think are really compelling. Maybe this might spark something for you at your center. So thanks for the willingness to join this call, for me to kind of tease out some of those ideas and for us to explore them together. And maybe it will lead to more community calls in specific directions that we uncover through conversation today. So that's my hope. We're going to start with some loose presentations from a few different folks across, I guess, a panel in a sense, who are going to share what they've been working on and a question maybe for this larger group. And I'd encourage people who are regularly attending our community calls to chew on if there's something that you'd like to share that is in line or that is kind of bubbling up throughout. And we'll save some time, 20, 30 minutes at the end, for a larger conversation among all of us to share our innovations, whatever practices come to mind. So it doesn't need to be just sage on the stage, everyone just responding to someone teaching. But to start with, Deirdre, can I invite you to share for about 10 minutes about what you're working on? I'm really excited about Deirdre's role and how it connects to retreat centers. So I'll ask her to start.
Sure. And Ben, how much time do you want me to? I don't want to.
If you could share for 5 to 10 minutes about where you are and kind of end with a question for us, then we'll have another 5 minutes or so to chat about it before we move on to another presenter. I'm thinking about 15 minutes for each share.
Okay. Then I may just show a few slides. So my name is Deirdre, and I'm in a new role at Lurie Children's Hospital. I'm the Director of Nurse Wellbeing. So there aren't many. This is a brand new role for hospitals. And sometimes they'll have this role for an entire hospital. We have a Director of Physician Wellbeing, and I'm the one for nurses. So we're fortunate, but it's an incredibly challenging time. I've been here 4 months, and there's a huge worker shortage. We're anticipating a high acuity respiratory year again, unfortunately. So, we're talking about 2 years of burnout, for the healthcare staff. So it's, I've been doing, I'm actually a medical anthropologist, and I've been doing well-being research for a decade now, and in that space for 30 or 40 years. But as a professional, I've been doing well-being research and facilitation and interventions for a while, for professional caregivers in particular. And but this new role is unique because of the scale of the burnout. So I'm here because retreat has been such a special and essential. It's played such an essential role in my own growth, personal growth, and I want to share this with our nurses. I will say on the positive side, for the first time ever, I'm getting all 30 directors to take a 2-day retreat in the fall in September. And that's just amazing. People kind of can't believe I've that people agreed to do this. And then our senior directors, so I just got off the phone with some of the kind of vendors and facilitators so I can't wait to get people out of the hospital for just 2 days, to have a little bit of reflection and respite from all that they've been through, and maybe have that little taste, of what I think you all know so well, so that when we come back and all the other ideas we have, we'll have more empowerment across the hospital. That's my hope. So, maybe I'll just stick with talking, because I think that's really the reason I'm here. I mean, I can talk a little bit about what were some of the ideas we have planned. I had my first meeting with Wellbeing Champions last week. So that was also very unexpectedly a high turnout. So I think what we're finding here is that well-being, matters, and as tired as people are, they are willing to show up. So we had, 25 champions that we talked about the importance of regulation, just from that we need a certain level of stress, to function well. And but what are those early warning stages, where we're, especially for high functioning people, do they have the self-awareness to know when they're tipping over into distress? How co-regulation works, right? So when we're not regulated, and we encounter someone, we can both kind of bring each other into dysregulation, or we can lift each other up, and just how that can work on scale at a hospital. So just starting with like a core, expanding our well-being vocabulary. Each time we meet, we'll have a concept, we'll have practices. The other big thing we're doing is trying to locate spaces in the hospital. So again, it's a high-rise, it's a beautiful high-rise in the middle of downtown Chicago, but very little space to practice well-being, to just take a breath. So we are located, I was looking at other examples of where storage closets are changed into these little, well-being rooms. I'm looking at, it looks like Alessandra, like your lovely plants, and, in the background, like we're trying to use nature as a catalyst for recharge. There's a lot of, everything I do has to have a lot of research and evidence base, because it's a hospital. They're, medical people. So I'm used to, I don't know if I have to, do all the references for you, but I'm optimistic that we can create some spaces where people can recharge, and we are learning the distinction between, getting really kind of nuanced, and we don't want them to fall asleep, even though there is some sleep research that shows maybe that, but at this stage we want, just them to be able to, refresh. And what else? Again, this is very new still at the hospital. We're looking at all kinds of programmings, from narrative medicine to mindfulness, to different kinds of physical, mindful movement, yoga, qigong. So I guess the exciting thing is that people are open to this, in a way that they never have before. But that's well and good. But for people in my position, it's how do you describe the importance of reflection, something that you would get in a retreat, in a place that's so reactionary and transactional, because they're just trying to get through the day. So I have, I think this idea of micro practices and slowly building up support is how we will do this through our champions. But it's definitely looking at the long game, and kind of phases of development, planting seeds, but at the same time, they need kind of relief right now. So, after this call, I've got several calls. I'm going to be one-on-one with people who are on the verge of quitting, basically, because they're just so exhausted. And these are our best people. It's so in a normal, I don't know, situation, at least what I would do as a consultant before, in some of these cases, you'd take people out, you'd give them, this is hard in this setting where, these are children that are sick and we're closing beds. So I think that puts a definite ethical challenge in this that, for me is much more loaded. So yeah, I guess that's my question is around that last part about reflection, which I know how important it is for creativity, for just perspective taking, what are some ideas for how to convey the importance of, reflection in practical ways, within this kind of system. Thank you.
Beautiful question.
Mhm.
Yeah, Maureen.
I think what I've realized, Deirdre, is people reflect differently. Some people would reflect by journaling some other way, but we've started a series called Contemplative Arts as Spiritual Practice. And we've had everything from Qigong. Yesterday we had praying in color, different forms of the arts that help people to reflect. And we had 2 hours yesterday with an 87-year-old sister leading it from the mother house. So it was just exciting to think she's still able to do that because she's taught the mandala as well. So I think looking at some of the arts can be a way for people not to worry that they're not an artist, but to just get them doing that. That's gotten people to reflect, just giving them the time. Like yesterday, how did they think about God, and doing a little doodling, and then who did they want to have in their minds right now to pray for or send energy or light, or however you frame that. So
Yeah, thank you. I think you're right in the arts, especially for this particular group of people and who are overwhelmed, that the arts and body-based therapies, they kind of are, you can't intellectualize it as easily, that's nice.
Aris, do you want to share?
Deirdre, I thank you for sharing that, because I presently work at a hospital, director of mission integration, but I'm transitioning into being director of our retreat center, but I still stay in touch with the hospital. In fact, we're going to be doing a retreat for nurses on post-cert, and it's the same thing. They're just so burnt out, and we're going to take them to just get them off campus, and it's the first time. She said, I can't believe we've been able to do it. We're splitting them in 2 shifts, but it's just been tension. You hire traveling nurses and they come in and get paid more, and there's tension between that. Lower staff, they're just stressed. Everybody's filling in, and I think just getting them away and helping them experience just let them experience it. Lead them through some meditation, just very simple, and try to get them to set a goal of starting a little thing each day, whether it's 5 minutes or what they can do. But I think even letting them experience some of it, so it's not just, in the head, but it really, they can see the benefit of it.
So, hi everyone, this is my first time here, so nice to meet you all. My name is Aras. I'm joining from Modern Elder Academy. It's a hospitality/private retreat slash sabbatical sessions organization that was just created in 2018. And my background is in wellness resort development, but also I happen to come from the medical and integrative medicine world into the wellness resort development world. So Deirdre, I personally very much resonate with what you're trying to build, because that was the reason that I switched from cardiovascular surgery residency over to business development for wellness, to find my own well-being and then to be able to share that with most number of people. So when you are looking into creating solutions, I think the most important thing is what is being asked by your nurses. So in any way, shape, or form, whether it is facilitating circle conversations, just like crowdsourcing that need and what they are looking for before going and jumping into the solutions, that would be my first intuition here. Because then whatever you say, you will have champions that will be talking about it, because you have sought buy-in before you develop something. And the second thing is there are a number of evidence-based collections of this work that already exist. So there's the Hero Health Alliance, which is the well-being for Fortune 500 companies. There is Ending Physician Burnout. That's a group that is also collating evidence. And then there is a book that just came out from Jessica Grossmeyer, who has been with Hero, but also with Google's Health and Performance. And she is talking about how to weave spirituality back into the workplace cultures in order to elevate the well-being conversation and purpose at work. So I'm putting those in the chat. And just before jumping into action, in the spirit of retreat, taking the space to really contemplate what is needed and how will you go about it, and not needing to reinvent the wheel. That would be my approach.
Yeah, I just, to your point, and as a former community organizer, I think that cannot be stressed enough, that and in fact, prior to my arrival, you can see where that's led to some resistance and cynicism when, things were either top down or not. So listening to, and that's the idea of the champions. I know I need liaisons who are on the front lines, who will be able to, in a place this large and complex, be able to take ideas and then adapt them to the, reality testing, right? The real life conditions on the floor. Thank you.
Deirdre, can you say a little more about champions and how you find them and what their role is with you?
Yeah, it's basically I've asked, and this is after being there a while and rounding, in where you go and visit the floors and get a sense for people. I asked for sort of the directors to nominate, a couple people. And then I didn't stop there. I also just kind of made it open to others who are interested, who have been kind of contacting me. Not, the directors may not always know of these particular people. So we just had our first meeting last week, and we're going to be meeting again next Tuesday. We have a practice pod where we kind of take the what we've been discussing and some regulation techniques, and then we practice it together. And they also they created pairs so that they can check in on each other. So with this idea of, what is your early warning sign that you may be, is it your shoulders? Do you have the self-awareness? Maybe think about that and then share it with your partner. And then on a regular basis, they'll be checking in with you, and so a lot of this is also a group to be kind of, experimenting with some of this stuff and seeing how it works with them. And they are a very vocal group. They, will tell me when things aren't going to work. So that's great. That was sort of the missing piece that I was running into a couple months ago. And some units are really, like I'm transparent enough to say, I don't have the answer right now. Let's just keep thinking about this because of the shortage of the workers, or because of just the length of time people have been exhausted, so I'm also, raising concern. I mean, we haven't had a mechanism to identify people who are really in trouble, so now there is one, and I'm working across silos. The hospital is a very siloed place, so that's been wonderful. The chaplains, the social workers, the peer responders, my background is very interdisciplinary. So as soon as I was hired, I just started to go across the hospital, and that's been great. I'm finding allies all over the place. So together we're creating a task force, and with the champions, I think we'll, that's given us some momentum in the last few weeks.
This might be a good spot to transition to our next speaker. But if you have more comments on this connection between healthcare well-being, healthcare workers' well-being, and retreat centers, let's make sure there's time to jump into those closer to the end. I'm curious what threads we might see throughout these conversations too. Thank you so much, Deirdre, for sharing and kind of letting us in on that story of your work. I'd like to turn it to Zach and Corey from Wild Vessel to speak a little about the work that they're doing and how it intersects with retreat centers as well.
Great. Thanks, Ben. It's really lovely to be on with all of you. Thanks for hosting us. Really, our intention on the call is to just to learn more about the challenges and opportunities that retreat centers feel like they're facing. We really want to be, listening and learning first. Wild Vessel is an education platform and community, and in digital experiences and in real life experiences, events and courses and programs with our guides who have a wide variety of skills that they teach. Our goal is really to help people deepen into a sacred relationship with themselves and with the material world and with their communities in particular. Corey and I both have a lot of experience with retreat centers, have spent a lot of time there, and those experiences have been very, very meaningful to us and very transformative in our lives and for our values and what we focus on, and we've appreciated them very much. Some of the things that we're, that we want Wild Vessel to be responding to is, on the one hand, creating more opportunities for personal development and spiritual growth for people that feel very relevant for them in this time and that can meet popular culture where it's at. And at the same time that we can offer programming and to enable people to deepen their practice so that it becomes more and more authentic and more integrated with their lives over time. And so, one of the things that we're focused on is really integrating a sacred relationship or sacred practice with material skills, craft skills, for example, embodiment practices, but also not just on an individual level, but also for a community. So our long-term mission, what we really want to contribute in the long term is that over time, people recognize more and more that their own that having a sacred relationship with their lives really entails building sacred community, sacred, resilient community that's both very intimate and purposeful, as well as treats its environment appropriately, treats its environment as sacred. And so a lot of the programming that will be rolling out is focused on not just individual transformation, but community transformation and community development. Another thing that we're interested in moving forward is not just solo guide teaching, but also collaborative teaching. So all of the guides that we've identified as the people that will be offering in the Wild Vessel community first are all committed. They all recognize this issue, and they're all committed to unpacking the deep threads of their own work and doing that for the other guides as well, and weaving all of those together into an integrated curriculum. So we really want everyone who comes through Wild Vessel to feel like they're held in a coherent web of offerings that make sense for their own spiritual growth and development of community in the long term. So for years, we want people to feel like they belong and have something that they can continue to learn for a long time, and that the various different facets that the guides teach all work together really well. Yeah, I think, and then to say the relationship with the retreat centers is, again, Corey and I have a lot of experience, personally being impacted in good ways from retreat centers. And we think there's a huge opportunity for retreat centers to potentially become, our interest is really that retreat centers become resilience hubs in their community, and that they think about the services that they can provide to offer resilience in many different ways. So that includes spiritual resilience or psychological resilience, emotional. This is probably what retreat centers tend to focus on. But we're also interested in retreat centers becoming hubs of more creative development and action that are broader than that as well, and more materially focused. And we could speak more to what we mean by that specifically. But like I said, mostly we're here just to understand the community of retreat centers better and to listen and learn. I do want to actually share a little bit about what we've done so far, just so that you get a sense of what we've been up to. So I'm going to share my screen and point to the first digital course that we've built so far. It's called Fire. Wild Vessel has a history of offering in-person events for embodiment and emotional healing, especially between men and women. For the last few years, we've run events for over 1,000 people, but recognize that we need to have both an online component and an in-person component if we want to reach popular culture widely, and then create opportunities for them to go deeper and more in-person work. And so we've started to innovate in what online transformation could look like. And we're really trying to emphasize building online transformational experiences that don't addict people, that don't suck them into staying on the screen forever. That's not our goal. Our goal is actually to get people to have the capacity to actually step away from that kind of thing and come back into themselves more and back into what matters most to them in their actual lives more. And then the other thing I think we're trying to innovate in on the online components is to integrate measurement of people's transformation. what we're working towards is being able to, in a rigorous way, say people who took this this course or this program transformed along the lines that we were hoping for that course or for that program. And what we really want to get to is being able to say that kind of thing for whole communities. So this cohort of people went through this course, or this whole community went through this course or this program, and together their community has these new capacities and has these new qualities. And we could speak more to that as well. But just to give you a sense of our focus on design, I'll just show you a little bit about what we've built so far. Can you all see my screen? Cool. So the FIRE course is our prototype online course, and the intention here is really Ilana, who you saw in one of those shots, is also one of the the leaders of Wild Vessel, and she is also a wild guide, and she's been offering element-based practices for many years. She was a dancer, professional dancer, and so a lot of her work is about embodiment, the elements, coming into sacred relationship with the elements outside of us and inside of us, and also in healing relationships between men and women. And the way that she, one of the the outcomes of the FIRE aspect of what she offers is for people to come into clearer relationship with their own intentions. So both to be able to be honest with themselves about what their intentions and desires are, to recognize what their deeper intentions and desires are below kind of what's superficial and easily accessible, and then to cultivate the strength to actually commit to living that out. Part of the idea here is that we trust people, and that trust people's hearts, and that it takes both safety and courage, and kind of an inner strength and inner commitment to live out our values in our lives. So the FIRE course is meant to support people in doing that. I'll just take you, the FIRE course is actually built out of four different pieces. The initiation, just an introduction to how to use this platform, and how to go through the practices. The transmission is a really visual and audio poetic journey through the element of fire as an archetype in our lives, so that people can relate to it as a force that exists outside of us, but also a force that exists inside of us that we can listen to and kind of set the stage for them to really do their practice. I just wanted to show a little bit of, go through the practice component of it. And the practice is where people do their work. And in the FIRE module, what that means is a daily practice of meditation, movement, and writing. 10 minutes of meditation, 15 minutes of a high intensity dance practice, and then 5 minutes of journaling every day. And so, and Ilana has taken hundreds of people, mostly women, through this before. So we wanted to create a new experience that encourages people to do it daily. So it's built out of these videos. This is just a video orienting people to the meditation, how to do the meditation, what it is, what its benefits will be. I turn the sound off so you guys can't hear it. And then goes into the meditation practice, etc. Same with there's the audio guided meditation, same with the movement. Actually play the video for the movement just a little bit.
To resist the dance is to resist life.
So again, I'm just pausing the audio. But again, this is the point of the practice is for them to actually raise the intensity in the context of intentions that might be scary, and to discover and commit to them more clearly. And then the writing. And this is a little bit of what the surveys look like in the that are embedded in the FIRE module. So each section has a survey component, and these are all formative assessments, so they're actually not meant to feel like you're taking a break from the course to answer questions, to give us data and doing some kind of scientific report. All of the questions are encouragements to reflect on your own experience, so that the transformations are integrated more deeply. And we're using some relatively novel social science type survey type questions in here. And yeah, I think, like I said, this is the prototype, and it's just the prototype for Ilana's FIRE module. Ilana has many more courses that she can offer, and then there's many guides and artisans that we've already enrolled into Wild Vessel. So we're just at the beginning, and yeah, we'd love to, any thoughts you have to share or questions, we'd love to answer. And again, really Corey and my intention here is to learn about what retreat centers are thinking their needs and opportunities are right now, so that we can start to have a deeper relationship with retreat centers. Corey, I'm curious actually if you wanted to say anything else.
That was a great overview, Zach. Yeah, happy to hear anyone's feedback or questions.
It's fascinating for me because I came into the RCC during the pandemic, as a lot of centers were thinking, how do we go hybrid? How do we kind of float some of our programming into the virtual space? So to hear folks bring it from the virtual space into the physical, and like, where do those two match up? That's where I'm seeing like oh wow, look at how glossy this virtual bit is. And where is the intersection here? How could these two connect? So I'm curious what other folks, if they also see that, if they see other things that I don't see.
I'll also just name that we're a 501c3. We're a nonprofit.
Where are you based, Corey?
Where are we based? I mean, we're location independent as far as a team and an organization. We're relatively distributed.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. I'm in, Zach and I are both in Oregon.
When you said strenuous movement, did you have some restrictions on that for octogenarians, or for how well you have to be to do the FIRE?
Yeah, it's always, it's always practice within the limits that are healthy for you. And that's how Ilana's framed it, and she's taught lots of different people. Yeah, and that's just for the FIRE. The intention that there for, again, is just to, like, whatever is stimulating for you, to actually lean into to what's stimulating, but it's not, there's no hard requirements to go beyond your limits.
Okay, just curious. Thank you. That
Yeah.
sounds exciting.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll let folks chew on that a little bit and see where they end up. If there are no burning questions, we can move on. I'll just give a minute here. Anybody got something they're chewing on? Okay. Oh, Aras, yes.
Yeah, I would like to just like bring up, since this is my first time I don't know if this is a retreat center thing to stay in silence until something emerges. For me as a first coming person, I'm very mindful of that, not sending a message when there is none. So like I would like to acknowledge Zach and Corey for sharing. It looks beautiful. Like the website looks beautiful and the content is, and it is very gutsy to do it as a 501c when everything else is doing it for profit. So I have a million questions, but I also was very mindful that I didn't want to jump on 2 times in a row in my first call, but I want to make sure that they feel included. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aris. I'll put our emails in the chat also, so that I'd love to be in touch with anybody who wants to reach out afterwards.
I just want to say kudos for advancing the men's work. You know, that's always wonderful to see happen in this space. So yeah, it looks gorgeous.
Thank you.
I would like to shift our conversation towards folks who are imagining new retreat centers and see if there are some ideas that we can all share to support new folks. I had 2 folks in mind, and one of them doesn't look like he was able to make it today, unless I'm not reading the names correctly, which has been my trend throughout this Zoom call. So if Stephen is here, we'll call on Stephen in a little bit, but Alessandra is here, and Alessandra is imagining a new center and really has part of it going already. So Alessandra, if you'd like to speak to what you're working on, I'd love to hear from you next.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. Yes, I'm so happy to be here. This is such a rich space already today, and I've heard so many beautiful things that are so relevant to my practice and yes, to future aspirations too. So thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to maybe share, I'm going to try to be as efficient as possible with my time, but give you a good sense of the Chrysalis Institute here. And anytime I share space with folks, I like to at least give them a sense of who I am, so we can kind of contextualize intentions from that point. So if you bear with me for a moment so I can access these bits. Can you see what I'm sharing right now? Oh, I think I need to make it bigger, don't I? Okay, can you see this okay?
Yes, that looks good.
Okay. So just a little bit about me. I'm a mom to 3, to Felipe, to Lucas, to Isabella. I'm a partner to Eric. I practice in private practice as a psychotherapist. I'm a plant medicine facilitator and a visual artist here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is the unceded territory of the Potawatomi people. And although I do my work here, we are currently really location independent as it comes to the Chrysalis Institute, because we serve artists from all over the nation. Yes, my identity is very multifaceted. My identity is really a complex mix of Indigenous and West African and European backgrounds. So I really wanted to honor that piece into, the kinds of space we're trying to hold at the Chrysalis Institute. And yes, I'm here today specifically speaking about the Chrysalis Institute, where I serve as the creative director, and I am the founder as well. Seeing here, I'm going to try to show this video that I think is really cool, and we just collaborated with an artist to put this video together, and I'd love to share with you. It's only a couple of minutes, but it gives you a good sense of who we are and kind of the direction that we're trying to go to. So I'm going to play. If for some reason, Ben, there's something that isn't working out, let me know, okay?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Hello from the Chrysalis Institute for Emerging Artists. The Chrysalis Institute is a multifaceted artist resource organization, fostering the creative process of emerging BI and POC artists. We invite artists who work in music, visual arts, performance, and writing to participate in our offerings. Through the Milkweed Learning Hub, Waystation Podcast, and Chrysalis Residency, we invite artists to learn, share, and retreat while offering resources for personal development, showcase opportunities, and spaces for restoration. The Milkweed Learning Hub offers artists a virtual space for engagement and self-exploration. Offered in biannual cohorts and designed from a socio-emotional framework, Milkweed offers a structured dive into creative processes and identity development. Artists will enjoy lively online discussions, relevant workshops, book clubs, and individual coaching sessions. Artists who participate in the Milkweed Learning Hub will also be featured on an episode of the Waystation Podcast. This guided dialogue will unpack histories, obstacles, triumphs, and creative insights relevant to BI and POC creators. Available on all major podcast platforms, these conversations allow our participating artists to share their process broadly and across many social media outlets. Finally, BI and POC artists throughout the United States will soon have the opportunity to apply for the Chrysalis Residency. While still in development, this offering will invite artists to enjoy comfortable accommodations and natural surroundings. While at this retreat, Chrysalis staff will support the artist's self-directed goals. Whether you want to create, research, or escape, we will work tirelessly to provide the support you need to make it happen. The Chrysalis Institute for Emerging Artists is anchored in the parallels drawn from the environment with respect to human growth, social justice imperatives, cultural and ancestral inheritance, and a profound love for the arts. We are dedicated to offering thriving ecosystems that feed, protect, and celebrate the creative essence of our participating artists. Check out the link in our bio for more information. Your support, suggestions, and interest are essential to the sustainability of our mission. Thank you for your curiosity, and we look forward to staying in touch.
That was great, Alessandra. We just heard the audio. Were you trying to play the video for us too?
Oh, you just heard the audio. Yes, I was trying to play the video. Did that not work?
I don't think it worked. I didn't know if you were just trying to play the audio, and so I didn't want to interrupt it.
No problem, no problem. Here, I'll just show you the image that comes with this, which is something that was designed by this artist named Mia Nazaro that worked with us to put it together. Let's see if I can. Okay, here you go. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, this is the image that goes with the video. So we're kind of utilizing this resource to share via social media, to share with people who are interested in what we do, and just to kind of tend to, lots of different learning styles, and yeah, just kind of bring something fun to the table. So this is what would have been, the build-up image that would be paired with the video. Sorry about that, folks.
It's okay.
And
great. Thank you.
Beautiful voices of my son, our oldest, who is a musician, and yeah, who's kind of ideal for this task. But yeah, so as you heard and hopefully got a sense of it, the Chrysalis Institute is a multifaceted space, and currently we're tapping into the virtual residency, and the virtual residency is dedicated to self-exploration, and we really after we admit artists that go through an application process, a submission process, and then their applications are looked at by our selection committee that is comprised by professional artists all over the nation. They take a look at these applications, and then once admitted, we start a program that taps into identity factors, value systems, really the self-exploration process. We move into habits, processes that maybe facilitate or hinder an emerging artist's artistic process. And then we definitely spend a lot of time in contextualizing suppressive systems and what their role is in terms of the creative practice of BIPOC people. And that's a really, obviously, rich and beautiful conversation that elicits a lot of, not only is it good for the artists to have this, convo in community, but it also illuminates a lot of how we do our work and how do we approach, programming moving forward. And then we finish, of course, with a lot of opportunity for artists to do a lot of sharing of their practice, and it's just a really, really rich space. And I must say that this has only happened once. We've only had one inaugural cohort in spring, and these are the folks who participated. Melissa Sutherland-Moss from Brooklyn, New York, Ashia Jani from Denver, Colorado, Yvonne Sams from Chicago proper, and Lisa Brown from Washington, DC. So these are the folks that we worked with during the spring, and applications are now open for the fall cohort that will be once again a virtual space. And the hope is that from this point, we can secure at first collaborative spaces so we can run physical residencies, in-person residencies, so that the alumni from the virtual program can come together and, you know, kind of share oxygen with one another. And yeah, so that's sort of the big view. And then the bigger view is for us to have our, you know, a space that we can craft specifically for these artists. Yeah, thinking about, oh yes, and this is the Way Station podcast. So as you heard on the audio, the culmination of these artists' experience in the virtual residency yields a feature on the podcast that's, you know, a really cool nutshell narrative of what they went through with us. So yeah, let's see. I think I can stop sharing now. I'm not sure how much time I spent doing this. Am I around?
You're doing great. Not worried about time. No.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So, and when it came to, of course, the questions, right, about what are the opportunities? Of course, there's, you know, this pandemic really lifted up the opportunity for us to as an organization to highlight the artistic contributions of emerging BIPOC artists while acknowledging that there are systems in place that actively impede their progress and the generation of their art pieces, right, and their artwork. And I was talking to someone that I met through this cohort recently who brought this beautiful idea to mind, highlighted, I should say, that creative practice is really the voice of our ancestors trying to come into existence. And there's such a beautiful idea on, you know, honoring the dreams and the visions that our ancestors have, and also what is currently living within us, and the legacy that we're leaving behind as creators. So yes. Oh, and in terms of a challenge or a question that I posed to the group, one thing that's becoming more and more clear is that as a BIPOC founder myself, right, I am subjected to a lot of the same, you know, impediments and the systems that, you know, blunt the creative process of the artists that we serve. So in terms of the sustainability and the success of this mission, I would love to hear more about, you know, creative support mechanisms and things that really challenge and sort of interrogate what is not working, and, you know, sort of generate something new and something that is collaborative, but also has trust and supports the autonomy of BIPOC people. So yes, that was a big question. Yes, anyway, thoughts. But I think that's it. Yeah, thank you so much for listening and, yeah, dealing with the technical difficulties. Thank you. I appreciate you all.
Could you rephrase the question one more time for us? It's a beautiful question. The way you framed it as being sort of subjected to the same oppressive systems that your participants are subjected to, and wanting to create this new space. I'm trying to paraphrase it to see if I'm catching it. And then you're looking for something.
Yeah, I think you got it. And it's the idea that when you have an individual who's trying to generate work for other BIPOC individuals, right? And I'm a BIPOC person myself. There's some of the challenges, although I exist in a ton of privilege that is acknowledged openly, but there are also a lot of challenges in terms of resources. I don't have the resources that are currently needed to create these spaces for these artists. So I'm really curious into, into understanding and also just teasing out potential, ideas that could facilitate some of these spaces for artists without, yes, I mean, without, contributing to that sense of exhaustion and that tension that rises for people who are trying to do the good work, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I have a question. If that would be okay to speak into the space, Ben? Great. Hi, I'm Peter Moore. I'm with Brighton Bush Hot Springs Retreat and Conference Center here in Oregon. And if I'm understanding you correctly, Alessandra, you currently have an online presence. You're working with BIPOC artists in these cohorts. And something that might be useful to you or to Chrysalis would be to make common cause or collaborative relationship with geographically based retreat conference centers around the country, where artists who work through your cohort then could maybe land at a space like maybe Brighton Bush, for instance, for a week or a month or some period of time to do an artist in residency where they're completely supported in terms of housing, food, support for them to pursue their creative project unimpeded by those daily kind of concerns. Am I accurate so far?
Absolutely. Yes. You spoke to my heart, Peter, for sure. I think that we have to exercise a ton of flexibility with our dreams and our visions, right? And I'm definitely in that space of wanting collaboration and wanting to find like-minded retreat centers who would do exactly what you just named. So yes, that's beautiful. Thank you for bringing that to light, for sure.
Right. And so my corollary thing is, as we have a thing called the Jedi Council, which stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. It's a group of we're a worker-owned cooperative. We've been doing this thing for about 45 years. And we are a year-round retreat conference center, and we are very much looking for connectivity with BIPOC and LGBTQ plus organizations, not just individuals, but organizations, and to collaborate programmatically with groups just as you described, where we can offer our space and work with people who are doing this work that similar to what you described. And so there certainly is a possibility. And now we're far away from Michigan. We're a couple of thousand miles away. But there are BIPOC artists and facilitators and teachers throughout the entire North America. And it may be that one or more of the people moving through your cohort might be interested in a place-based, and by the way, we're in the forest, we're an off-the-grid community. So we make our own electricity from the river, and we have hot springs, pools, and steams, all that thing. And we serve organic vegetarian meals 3 times a day to all the people who are at Brighton Bush. And I think we'd be very interested in collaborating with you and with the artists that you are working with. So there certainly is a possibility here, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this call who might be interested in working with you and with the artists that you're working with. And so let's create a connection, and we can talk offline. Anyway, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Woo! I'm excited. Thank you. This sounds beautiful.
other folks have insights that come up from this? I'll just chime in that an insight that comes up for me is a member of our steering committee, a recent member of our steering committee, has been really interested in storytelling and in the role of storytelling at retreat centers and in our community of retreat centers. And the podcast piece of Chrysalis Institute feels really relevant, that for many retreat centers, it's difficult, as Zach and Corey also spoke to, it's difficult to chart the transformation and sort of market that this has happened. And the storytelling piece as a way to say, this is what I've gone through and this is where I'm at now, just feels really meaningful, accessible, generative, supportive, just a lot of pieces there that you're tying together with just that one element. So I just wanted to cheers to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the way you put that, to chart, right? Chart the journey and the narrative. It's wonderful. Yeah, we feel that deeply. Thank you.
Alessandra, I am so glad I was able to make this session today, and hearing all the wonderful approaches to integration from all the speakers, but also Alessandra, really getting the resources for BIPOC, particularly underserved, and this whole concern of, you know, BIPOC founded organizations that primarily serve BIPOC community not really having the resources and the amount of challenges that we have to experience in accessing resources, and even to just get the information out there that we exist. And so, as you were saying, for your BIPOC artists, one of the huge things that's important is to be able to even have the resources to really promote them on multiple levels, in addition to having the spaces for residency. And so within this particular context of the retreat centers, I think that Peter's offering for residency is really great. Hello, Peter. I don't know if you remember me from HCN, but good to see you.
Of course I remember.
Okay. But also looking at additional opportunities that can be offered in partnership with retreat centers, because it's so rich in what's available. So whether it's artists needing residency, whether there's a conference or a retreat for artists in general, as well as just like for our organization, our work is focused on helping people heal from trauma, particularly transgenerational, cultural, historical, and present day. And so a lot of the challenges that our folks that we work with is very much intersectional, as mentioned by Alessandra. And so, you know, the more that we can have opportunities for collaboration and partnership, I think it's a win-win for everyone, and really to experience Jedi work in real time, to actually have these experiences of multiple cultures getting in one place at one time and learning about each other, and really seeing that we need our community in order for the survival of our organizations. So, yeah.
Yes, yes. Hi, Dr. Myra. It's so good to hear your voice. And yes, thank you so much for lifting that up. One thing that really, you know, catches my eye and my ear about what Peter shared is that Jedi component, because, you know, there can be a place of generosity in opening up your retreat spaces for us to come in and do programming, but that critical lens of not only Jedi critical lenses, right, but also to be trauma informed becomes very, very important as these collaborations take place. So, you know, we have to be very very focused about who we choose to collaborate with to make sure that the people we serve are, entering an environment that is welcoming and that can hold the complexities of their identities and their life experiences. So yeah, just wanted to name that.
Yeah, that really resonates with RCC's position and the work that we see our community doing and needing to do, the growth that the retreat center sector as a whole is wanting to do and is just beginning in a lot of cases. So not falling on deaf ears. I think that's really where a lot of centers' work lies at this time, and where my personal work lies in this role is to keep lifting up that need and centering that need and helping folks see where the next step is for their center or their organization to move forward. So thank you, Alessandra. Other thoughts coming up for folks thinking about Alessandra's center design or impact, possible overlaps with your work. Just want to make sure that there's room for those connections to be made if they're bubbling. And otherwise, I'm wondering if folks want to share a larger conversation and share some of the innovative practices they've been working on at their centers. That invite was right in the email reminder. So if you've got some that you've been holding, this is your chance to kind of cash in that ticket. Yeah, Marianne, do you have something? Another opportunity we have here is that Marianne, are you going to?
I've been.
I
don't know if I had my hand raised. It was accidental. I just kind of got in on the end here and been listening, and I haven't heard enough to even ask a question. So I will put myself back on mute. I might not have been on mute. Good to see.
I'm glad you're here, Marianne. You can be on off mute if you need to be. Maureen, did you have a question?
I just am so excited about what you're doing, and would love to be in a position to invite you to Tampa when Kalamazoo gets too tough in the winter. But I'm not in that position, but I am going to bring it up to our executive director, who's just been 2 weeks on the job and couldn't come today. But that whole idea of the multiple ways, I guess I turned my video off. The multiple ways you're approaching it is exciting, that there's so much, and emerging artists are someone that we really need to cultivate in our society and in our retreat centers. That having an artist in residence, like Peter said, could be a really exciting potential. Maybe getting a grant to make it happen, so that the retreat centers that are struggling right now for bringing people in could benefit by having an artist, but having the help to pay for it too.
I just had a general observation around, like in the workplace, like I'm working very closely with EDI and then our engagement person, and we're it's what mine is well-being. It's all, of course, so intricately connected, but workplaces are having to become, much more conscious and trauma informed, and there's just so much. It's kind of a chaotic environment right now, in many ways. It's exciting for someone like me, and I think it just for me raises the there's a real role, I think, for retreat centers to play as people try to figure this out, how to create as there's these just more awareness, and frankly, people just aren't going to tolerate, conditions that they tolerated before. There's from like management and leadership, there's this kind of, well, how do we become, how do we step into this new kind of leadership role? That is, they may have all these skill sets and capacities, but this is a new, and so I think some of you, it's like this interesting in my own life. I think of it as this mix of where I draw upon, community organizing and even what my mother was doing in the 60s. And, there's just so many kind of like different strands coming together, different generations, different groups of people. And they're all, trying to create this healthier environment that makes, so there's just a huge role for reflection, for stepping outside and where people, those safe, brave spaces, right, which are so needed in order for us to kind of create some kind of social contract that's coherent, and anyway.
I think one of the things that I would like to share, hello everyone, I'm Sue from Lindenwood, and I'm always graced and joyful to be among you because you teach me so well. We have been offering a monthly day, we call it a day of rest and healing, and it's mostly unstructured. I meet with whoever arrives and welcome them into a space where they can just lay down everything for a bit and let their souls catch up with their body, so to speak. And so I think what I'm invited to offer you all is not that you have to come to Lindenwood, which who knows how far it is from you all, but the invitation to recognize that each of us, especially when we're working with various populations of people who are stressed, whether it's nursing or whether it's our BIPOC brothers and sisters, or whether it's artists, whoever it may be, it is important for us to recognize that sometimes we can begin to carry the burdens that we hear in all these stories. And so it's important for us to take our own day of rest and healing so that we can be good instruments for other people. It's a reminder I need, but it's also something that can be offered to anyone who feels the burden of lack of wellness practices in their own lives, or a lack of taking moments to go within so they can continue to serve without or on the outside. So I just want to offer that as a possibility because it's not a big thing. But it is retreat centers of all kinds offer space so that each individual can receive what they need to receive, to do what they need to do in the world and be who they need to be in the world. And that support system, we first have to give ourselves permission for all of that. So, amen.
This is not an innovative practice, but it speaks to another need in our society. 12 years ago, the director of the center, who also was chaplain to the Tampa police, and another person who was chaplain, I think she was both FBI and Tampa police chaplain, she started offering programs for first responders. And we have them every other month still to this day, 12 years later. And a lot of it is about the trauma and what they've experienced. But we're just starting my grandmother's hands on looking at the whole thing of the embodiment in our, and he even has a section on police bodies because he feels that no matter what their color, they carry a lot of trauma in themselves. So it's been a combination of, and it's even been taken overseas to Africa, to Rwanda, because it was developed so well over the years. So that's one to think about in another workplace group that really has taken a lot of trauma and even more so in recent days and years.
Did you say it is facilitated by a chaplain?
Yes, he also happens to be a minister, pastor, Lutheran pastor, but he had been chaplain, and I think he was in, not sure if he was in Vietnam, but he has served also in the military. So that brings another whole perspective. And it's usually, I think they limit it to 8 people at the most. So it's a very small group, but it includes having spiritual directors, having people, specialists in trauma for that 3-day period. So it's really made a difference. In fact, our new police chief, she has been a part of it. And so she's really encouraging people to come and take advantage of that opportunity.
What's
But
the
we
name?
also have, like Sue, we also have reinstituted our quiet day, and it's changed the demographic to much younger people than usually come because they're so desperate for just the quiet of having just a beautiful time in nature. And so those are very important practices, I think.
What's the name of the program for that's trauma informed for police officers?
Operation Restore.
Operation Restore. Okay.
I'll try to send you some information about it that you can put in.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
I just realized I forgot to share a portion of why we're called Nature Studies Conservatory, and I shared with you about the trauma. So the whole focus of our work is nature and we have a healing center and research center and educational institute, but it's all drawing from nature and natural cycles and natural systems to help people heal, and from an ancestral indigenous approach. So sorry about that, forgot to mention it.
Thank you, Dr. Myra.
I'll put it in the chat, but another wonderful resource is Capacitar.org. I took their training in trauma healing and transformation a number of years ago, but it's all bodily, a lot of body things like Tai Chi and things that people can take. And the founder, Pat Kane, has put a lot of it on YouTube now, so it's available. And the people, I think it could be helpful for some of those mini practices that you talked about, Deirdre, because I think in working in hospitals and stress in my past life, I know that there's so many sources, and now it's just the number of people that are quitting is exponential.
I heard several different folks lift up these smaller circles too. And someone mentioned like groups of 8, maybe Maureen, you were saying there were groups of 8. That's real similar to a Healing Circles model as well. So I might lift up Healing Circles Global, who that model can be done online or in person. And it's very neutral and very safety oriented in that you're not giving advice, you're just sharing. And there's a person who's sort of in charge of maintaining the security of the circle and kind of checking the health of how it's going throughout the hour process. I've heard that retreat centers really enjoy using it because it can be used in a variety of settings for different types of affinity groups. And it actually is similar in some ways to the AA process. So you might explore working with them. RCC has offered a training for RCC members to become skilled in using the Healing Circles framework. But I think it might also fit in a lot of these other kind of ways that we're trying to provide care. And Deirdre, you and I have talked about that as well. So just lifting that up again.
Yeah, and if anyone knows how to adapt, because I think there are some people who've tried to adapt Healing Circles to hospitals, they're just given the time constraints, and but just a general open, please, if you're interested in either sharing practices with our nurses or perhaps being open to a retreat in the future, reach out to me, because we hope to build more and more of this.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of you, Deirdre, as like emblematic of so many hospitals across the US and Canada. And we have so many centers that could provide respite and healing. So, yeah. We have about 8 minutes left. Are there other ideas that folks want to chime into the circle? I want to express my gratitude to all my guests that I gently twisted their arms to come and speak to our community. Excited to see all the overlaps too, the ways that different ideas inform one another. So for me to be exposed to these kind of conversations, very similar to what Sue was saying, I feel like I'm getting educated all the time. And so hoping that we can all be educating each other. This is a space that's about learning and growing together and really teaching one another as well. So our Mighty Network social platform is a great place to exchange ideas if you have more ideas there. And I'll be connecting with folks on our next community call, which is going to be coming up in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about beyond scholarship, inclusive hospitality and belonging, which I think speaks to some of what Alessandra, you were lifting up about. Yeah, we can give folks a scholarship to come to our center, but do they really feel like they belong there, or are they really safe there? And what do we need to look at in order to make sure that more folks are safe on our sites? So I'm looking forward to that conversation. We'll have several leaders there who are going to speak about their own experience developing different resources, and curious what you folks are doing as well. So I would love to have you on for that call 2 weeks from today. I'm loving the emoji usage. Thank you, Addis, for getting that ball rolling. I felt like I saw a few from you. And here's Brian. I'll let Brian in. Thanks for being a part of this conversation, folks. I'm going to end the recording here. Look forward to connecting again soon.